South Africa, home to over 50 million people, it has become a diverse village of the Southern Hemisphere, gathering cultures from all over the world. Among this rich melting pot, South Africa has inherited another group of people: refugees.
My name is Kingwiti Dedi Mwamba. I'm come from Congo, DRC Congo.
I'm called Fatuma. I stay in Johannesburg. I came from Somalia. My father, my brother and sister, they were killed in Somalia.
My choice was not really come to South Africa as to be a refugee. It was not really part of my choice. I never even dreamed it.
I ran away because of the war and the problem of my parents to get in Somalia. That is why I came to South Africa to get a safe.
I was even be in the army. I was taken by force in the movement of the rebels. So once I get opportunity, I ran. I came here to South Africa. To reach here in South Africa, it was very, very most of the challenge and a bit difficult. It was not easy. I didn't have a passport. I didn't have any document. But I could say it was just a miracle. When I came to South Africa, the first challenge, what I faced, it was according to the language. Firstly, I was very frustrated because I didn't know how to speak English. I was doing this, how they call it, this kagad. There is a what they call to direct someone if you want to come from the parking. It was very frustrated. Maybe it can give you 2 rands, maybe it doesn't give you anything. It was not really easy. No? I was crying even that moment. I sit and I crying without eating. But I must. I didn't have a second choice.
The life I get here, my community welcomed me. I start to work. I was pregnant with 9-month babies. I delivered. No one helped me, only the community helped me 3 months. When I delivered, I was getting stressed. I was not working. I don't have any relative here. I faced with a lot of problems. My husband was shot in front of me. He died, the first one. The first husband, he died in front of me. The second one, they have shot several times. He didn't die, but he was in the critical point in the Blue Fontaine.
To be a foreigner is like half of a slave life. So you ask yourself, which really kind of life are we passing through? So it may be to be a foreigner is really a sin or a mistake. Sometimes you ask that kind of question.
To build my life better, if I get a peaceful place to work, I could stay, but how can I stay? I just stay because I don't have the place to go back. My country is war.
When a person has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, or natural disaster, they often lose their identity. They wear the label of the asylum seeker, the foreigner, the stranger, the displaced. And they get lost in the sea of other desperate people trying to disconnect from the trauma of losing everything in search of a new connection. South Africa has been given the global mantle of a rainbow nation, at peace with itself and the world. Shared history and the scars of a walk to freedom has drawn a multitude of marginalized people who have been stripped of their basic human rights. But the deep-seated wounds of an unreconciled nation have robbed us of the opportunity to receive our brothers and sisters. And the weight of our struggle and our disappointments from within, in many cases, has left us hardened to the struggle of others. The result of this is the displaced have now become the discarded. Social, relating to society or its organization, needing companionship and therefore best suited to living in communities. Cohesion, the action or fact of forming a united whole. Unity, togetherness, solidarity, bond, connection.
Finding the refugees living in our community requires a journey, a process. In order to capture and understand the reality of what people are facing, we need to go to where they are. Mapping gives us a geographical oversight of where refugees are located. But when we sit down with each individual, they are more than just a pin on the map. In the one-on-one time, the deeper realities of the refugees are also being heard by the locals. The encounter may be brief, but there is value in the South African representing the face of understanding. It is a chance for us to inform the refugee of their rights and provide them with helpful referrals, whilst connecting them with free counselling should they require that kind of support.
Building bridges.
A dialogue is a space for stories to be told. It's where we learn to listen to each other and try to understand each other. It's change the direction of conflict. It is not a debate or an argument with a winner or a loser. It's a step toward building trust. Because if we never sit down and talk to each other, we never know each other. And if we don't know each other, we continue to fear each other. It creates an opportunity for the refugees community and the hosting community to build trust. You must know that Zulu people are the best all over in the world in singing.
There are many challenges in the world. There's many challenges in South Africa. And part of the problem is we don't ever get to sit down together with people who are maybe from different backgrounds and have different viewpoints from our own and actually dialogue. And that just leads to increased animosity. As a white South African male, I've had to, over the years, especially in recent years, hear some things about what white males have done in this country and how we are perceived. And I've had to listen to people tell me very clearly about white privilege. And it has been really good for me to sit and to listen and to absorb opinions that are different to my own, because we don't learn much when we're talking. We generally learn more when we're listening.
Xeno means differences, and phobia is fear of. So it's fear of differences. We have fear of each other, but then maybe that was because we have fear of change.
She's my sister from my country. So she's having a flat, staying together with the tenant, which are South African.
Yes.
Very good, sharing kitchen, sharing fridge and food. The last xenophobia will happen here. So the tenant, her own tenant, which they used to be friends, when they just hear about the xenophobia, they started to attack her.
So in my understanding, I see xenophobia as a process that deals with two people, the oppressed and the oppressor. The oppressed is full of fear and the oppressor is full of hatred.
I think when we got freedom, our leaders were supposed to inform us as South African that, look, other countries helped us to be liberated. I was even told that in Nigeria there is something called Mandela tax. And I'm sure most of us as South African, we are not aware of that. And I can blame it in most cases to the mass media, the way Africa is presented to us as South Africans. We have no communication. We don't know our brothers. We feel like we are different from them. We feel like we are better. They have failed. We have that kind of image about Africa. So that's why when they come here, we feel like, look, we cannot associate with them because we have no history. We don't know anything about them.
Most of refugees see themselves like forgotten.
As much as we can be separated by continent or countries, but in one way or the other, we need one another.
Wonderful. Everything is connected.
Restoring wholeness.
The group counselling and narrative therapy has focused on identifying the positives and strengths from the participants' culture, their family background, significant people, as well as unlocking the hopes and dreams they used to have, affirming their experiences and how they've demonstrated strength and resilience in the past, while separating them from their problems and centering them as the experts of their own lives. We've seen how people come into this kind of group work with problem-saturated stories where they can see what has gone wrong very clearly, but they've also forgotten the times where they have overcome, where things have gone well, where they have thrived. The space encourages them to strengthen other storylines, because hardship is not the only story we have, and it isn't the only one that matters. Strengthening other storylines while giving people room to also express their pain, we see how they are able to carry on and feel a sense of hope. We've seen how hearing stories of suffering that transcends cultural and geographical boundary lines prove to sensitize participants, awakening compassion. During the course, we saw strong relational ties between foreigners and locals being built as they shared many of the same experiences and discovered the similarities of their culture and language. Some participants also formed an informal support system in their community outside of their usual circle, which brought them out of isolation and made them feel a sense of belonging. Having a local person be the one to counsel and support the group, a bond of understanding was formed where the refugees and the asylum seekers felt heard, which was a relief to many who in the past felt that all South Africans were against foreigners.
Unlocking freedom.
Participatory photography is a collaborative participatory methodology in which participants are supported in generating their own photographic work in order to share their lived experiences and present the world as they see it. Over the course of 7 to 8 weeks, refugees and South Africans work on projects together. Participants develop their own style of work. They learn the basic skills of photography and storytelling through images, and they're encouraged to use that to tell stories in ways that make sense to them, choosing what they'd like to represent and how they'd like to represent it. One way in which the workshops have been helpful is that we've seen how people's stereotypes have been challenged and even dismantled at times. Some South Africans have said that when they first joined the workshops, their perspectives of foreign nationals were that they were just here to steal their jobs. But by the end of the workshop, after 7 weeks of being together and working together, someone said, I realized that most of the foreigners here are good people and that they are trying to build a life here and are contributing to society just as much as we are. From the perspective of some of the foreign nationals, we've had some people say that they believed all South Africans hated foreigners and refugees, but through being in a space where they felt welcomed, accepted, and even celebrated, they realized that many South Africans aren't against them and that potentially they could build a life here. Along with storytelling and photographic skills, there's a strong relational component to the workshops, where participants are encouraged to get to know each other across cultural lines. We spend time learning greetings and how to say a few words in each other's languages, learning about the different cultures represented in the group, and sharing stories from our own backgrounds and environments. This really contributes towards the sense of celebrating the diversity amongst us.
My name is Aron Hagostesfai. I'm from Eritrea. So I came to South Africa in 2013, but I left my home in 2012, at the end of 2012. Yeah, the main reason why I left home is because Eritrea still now is under dictatorship and there is no kind of any rights for that a human being deserves there. So you are totally under the military control. You start serving the country till you are young. I was in the military since 17 years old, and I was in the military since I was 25, which means since I left, even though I was a university student. So, and yeah, it's because my human rights was not fulfilled, and that's what the main reason I left. And when I left, I have to escape and cross a border to neighboring country, Ethiopia. Then from Ethiopia to Kenya, it's just using smugglers. You pay to smuggle from your country, then also they smuggle you to another country till South Africa. I came through that way. Yeah, I've joined the photography workshop because I've been looking for those opportunities to get in contact with local South Africans, and since long that I had in mind that this is something that must be worked out and by someone, and someone can be me, that to get involved in the community, knowing them and let them knowing you, and trying to understand each other and build that environment. It was a good space that is designed, like, in one sense, angle to empower the individual who is participating, and in doing so that you share your ideas, whatever your backgrounds are, you left them at home or somewhere, then you are in that place to contribute for the task is given. And we have found that she's I think arranging the clothes, because they were donated clothes to the organization who is teaching needy people swaying training. They are giving them a swaying training, so they sell those clothes who they get from someone else. Then the money they use it to repair the machines. So yeah, we took one picture while she was explaining us, and we tried to give a hand and help. So we were closing, we were arranging the clothes, helping to sweep the environment, and do something, stuff cleaning. I think it's a 5 or 10 minutes community work. And those pictures, I believe that they can be used like to show other people what these people are doing, and to motivate, to give a hand and involved in the community work.
That's awesome.
And that kind of sense is giving you sharing ideas, and you know people from their attitudes, their beliefs from that. When you see a picture, like, I can see it in different ways, and someone can, and that is your minds that you show up. Yeah, that I'm still like trying to put myself in deep and do my part on bringing that kind of cohesion and what we want the South Africans have to understand about refugees, why they are here, and we have to understand their situation from their point of view. I think now I'm seeing myself more than as a refugee or a refugee from Eritrea. I'm seeing myself as an African. Then I have to live in Africa and do something in Africa. And that is like I'm trying to get involved in the South African communities and do what can I contribute to the communities. So I see myself as an African activist, and whatever in Africa that I have to feel home and to do what I can do, whether it's small or anything that I can do. So I'm having that kind of attitude. And South Africa, it's an African country. I can be in South Africa and do my best here. Yeah.
My name is Zwakele. I'm from Durban, born and raised. I'm a student currently. I study law at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I heard about the photography workshops from my friend Aron, an Eritrean refugee who lived in the same building as I did. I decided to join the workshops because I was looking to enhance my photography skills. What was profound was how incredibly humanizing the space was, and it wasn't just about the problems that we face. I'm sure you know that South Africa has been facing a fair amount of its own problems when it comes to the relationship between African foreign nationals and South Africans. And those relations are problem-based. But what hearing these stories and having a face to these stories does is that it humanizes these struggles. So you're not just dealing with problems, you're dealing with people as well. Not just dealing with the Eritrean, but you're dealing with someone. And you know them. They have a name, you say hi, and that changes your interaction to some of their struggles that they face. Even as much as you can know something, I think, the more you hear the story, the more human it becomes, the more it touches your humanity. Even though I've already been in scenarios where I've known and befriended people who have gone through really hectic situations in their journey as foreigners to seek refuge and asylum in South Africa, the space exposed me to more nationalities and a great deal of stories, which I feel, for me at least, concretize the image that South Africa is not just about South Africans, and there's a fair amount of work that we need to do in the relationships between ourselves, the people who come here seeking safety, and the longer term strategy of how we are able to make their countries safer for them to go back to, should they ever wish to return. I was also pleasantly surprised to find fellow South Africans in this space, who really proved my prejudices of them wrong, because even though many of them were from the township areas, where most of the violent xenophobic attacks were seen, and frustration was given the face of the foreign national, they seemed to have led themselves to a point where they were against what greater society was telling them to do. And they seemed so comfortable and willing to accept everyone and even help facilitate the space being safe for everyone, which was really profound for me. So outside of the spaces that are intentionally created for cohesion, you are the one left to create those spaces. And that kind of agency requires a great deal of having done your inner work. The photography workshop created a space that taught me the importance of having leadership over one's life and not allowing the communities that we are socialized under to inform us blindly. And we need to be even more deliberate in our everyday life, to say hi when you wouldn't ordinarily say hi, even if it's outside your comfort zone, to do that anyway for the sake of good relations. It was a lesson and reminder for me as a South African, specifically from the Nguni clan with the cultural ethics of Ubuntu. It's meant to be played down in our everyday lives, from the way you speak to the hello in isiZulu. As a stepping stone, that means I acknowledge you and I acknowledge everything that you're about. It is a lesson to be more deliberate in our respect for others, and that for me was delivered more profoundly in this space.
Restoring unity.
Taking a child-friendly program into schools, where children from different cultural backgrounds are safe and free to play and create together, has a restoring effect. While the activities are centered around creating a space for every single child to feel accepted and significant, you start to see how instilling value brings out the gold in them and reminds them to be kind and value others. The beautiful thing about children is that they are less likely to hold prejudices in their hearts, even when there's division in society. But they can be very easily influenced if we don't make them feel empowered and important. One of the highlights of this year has been to see children realize their potential and begin to flourish as they recognize their purpose in this world, God's plan for their lives, and the power they have to make a difference.
Celebrating diversity.
In a nation where diversity has become a weapon of division, there needs to be a creative response to remind people that diversity is a gift. And whether you are a foreigner, a refugee, or a South African, within us all there is something worth celebrating. We all have something unique and unifying to offer. The arts create a common ground that goes beyond where each of us is from. We are able to communicate through movement and song in a language that we all understand. This message has become mobile through our community pop-ups, bringing people together while showcasing the artistic talents that contribute to the cultural beauty of our nation.